Hey guys, Lucas Garvey here. Today I want to discuss something that doesn't seem to be brought up that often. That being, do artists have an ethical responsibility that they should uphold to their audience? Should they refrain from showing something that is overly obscene? It seems that the typical axiom has been that the artist should be free to express how they feel, no matter how gruesome or inappropriate the content they are portraying may be. The artist must be supported. Now, before I go any further, I'm not discussing whether they should be held accountable in a legal sense. That notion is absurd. Freedom of speech is paramount and must be kept safe. What I am discussing is the artist being accountable by their own ethical beliefs. No legal mumbo jumbo, just their own consciousness. I think the main issue is that artists seem to denounce their effect on the cultural zeitgeist. They make their work without considering the repercussions their work may have on the society. Let's briefly go over some examples. Shortly after the release of Stanley Kubrick's Clockwork Orange, there was a string of copycats. People who were inspired by the film to perform heinous acts similar to those found in the movie. A 16-year-old dressed as Alex from the film, along with his friends dressed as the rest of the droogs, beat and kicked a 15-year-old. And a 17-year-old Dutch girl was raped by a group of boys as they sang Singing in the Rain. Stanley Kubrick and Warner Brothers were so disturbed by these events, as would anybody, that they decided to completely remove Clockwork Orange from the UK. More recently, after the release of Netflix's 13 Reasons Why, a study showed that there was a 19% increase in Google searches saying things similar to how to commit suicide or how to kill yourself. Also, there's been a huge amount of criticism towards video games for allegedly increasing violent behavior, considered to desensitize people to extremely violent scenarios. Similar criticism is thrown at music for allegedly promoting drug use and similar vices. It seems that the main response to these horrible events is to say, the art had zero effect on the person. They were already psycho and would have done what they did regardless of the work. Well, it's pretty much impossible to say one way or the other if the art was the main issue. If I had to guess, it's different with each case. I'm sure there are times where the art had very little effect on the person's actions, and they blame the art to take the blame off of themselves. And I'm sure there are times where someone's on the cusp of doing something terrible, and they get that slight push from the art to get them going. Which, it should be stated that the reverse is obviously also true. The same way a work of art can promote someone to do evil, it can also promote them to do good. So if we accept that some art can produce extremely terrible scenarios in the real world, then what exactly are the rules that artists should consider when touching on extreme subjects? I'm not saying that they shouldn't portray terrible things, because terrible things happen every day in life. So it'd be pretty foolish to say that artists should avoid such topics. I think there are two main concerns when showing something foul. I think the artist should consider the target audience and be careful with how they romanticize the graphic material. If they're making a show or a movie that's directly targeting kids or teenagers, they should be extremely careful with how they show things, because teenagers are extremely impressionable and short-sighted. The other big issue is how romanticized is it? You can show kids some real terrible stuff, but you need to present it in the right way. I think a lot of artists, especially nowadays, take the lazy route and try to entertain and amuse by using shock value, which I think comes off as being really cheap. Whether it's a horror film that's full of jump scares and gore, or a tragedy that shows people dying of some awful sickness. Sure, it might come off as scary or sad, but it doesn't seem earned. It's a quick, immediate response to something obscene, not a deep level response that will stick with you for days, weeks, or maybe even years. So I think a lot of artists try going for this over-the-top and non-necessary effect of shock value. By doing that, they show the obscene for no other reason than to show the obscene, which is the ultimate form of romanticizing. Now, I'm not saying that the ethical responsibility of the artist should be held above everything else. If the artist feels so passionate about showing something obscene to the point that the work is meaningless without it, then so be it. Let them. But they should do so acknowledging the chance of what it could potentially do, and not from a point of ignorance, denouncing all responsibility on their part. That's pretty much all I want to say about that. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, give it a like, click subscribe for more videos like this every week, and make sure to click the bell button to stay notified. Thanks for watching, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.